everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I'm so excited because I'm going to show you how to paint this acrylic painting on canvas step by step. This is a real-time tutorial. I am going to explain the techniques. I am going to explain the materials. It only takes 3 colors. It is a great first painting. It's a wonderful snow scene landscape with 2 gorgeous pink trees in the foreground. I know you're excited to do it. I can't wait to see your version. Get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me at the easel right now. I'm going to show you how you can paint this. Let's hop right into today's project. I have an 8 by 8 canvas. You could use any size you want. I have black paint, white paint, pink paint. I have some great new paint for splatter, but you can use any paint that you have. I have a mop for blending, a cat's tongue for painting, a fan for trees in the background, and a splatter tool to make easy snow. Let's begin the sky background. We're going to just use 3 colors. So let's really load up our big brush. This is a Princeton little mop here. I'm going to put just a small amount of black into this. I want a soft gray. I'm adding water to improve the flow on my brush. I flip the brush over. We're going to come below. If this is the halfway point, we're going to come below, drag across, and curve. Drag across and curve. I'm going to come in, get a little more water. Come right here. You want this to be a light enough gray, down here especially, so that the trees will really pop. This is going to be about you having differences in values. You can see what a nice soft gray it is, and I'm curving this brush stroke, and it's going to give it a fisheye effect. As I go up, I can add a little more black into my brush, darkening it, and come up here, going across to the top, painting all the canvas. You want to get rid of all those little white spots. And then we're going to come down, blending in. Now at this point, I actually am going to rinse my brush out because I don't want to stripe. You may not want to stripe either. I've rinsed it out of paint. It's just damp. And I'm going to use this to blend the top of the sky down. That's going to give us that nice ombre effect, that blend. It's going to feel like a real winter sky. Okay. Rinse that brush, just put it to the side. You don't want to leave paint on your brushes. I'm going to use a pouncer tool. This is a round daubing tool. It's used for many things. And I'm going to get my white into it and I twist it. I come to the edge of the paint and I twist that tool around. A real easy way to do a moon. And I'll show you how it looks when it's loaded. It's just like that, not anything crazy. I'm going to come right here, circle to the right, and I'm going to come back and circle to the left, getting a nice print of a moon. You definitely want to put that in some water, rinse that out. You don't want to leave the paint sitting on your sponge. Now, sometimes I like to come here and tap out any little bubbles. Sometimes the sponges will give you bubbles. May fix any little boo-boos that I don't like. Keep it like that. I'm going to take, this is a number 8 cat's tongue. You could use a round. You could use a filbert. You could use a bright. Whatever brush you feel comfortable with or came in your brush pack is okay. I'm going to come here with my black and I'm going to just make little tapping motions. See how I'm just barely tapping? We're just making some little moon craters. Little moon craters. Coming down. Maybe a little more black. Make some variants. I'm just on the toe, noticing I'm just coming to the edge here. Just the toe of my brush has the paint on it. And I'm tapping around. Make an irregular shape. Doesn't have to be perfect, guys. Just has to be irregular to feel like a moon. It's about how all the layers come together. Now, this is a good time to dry your surface. So grab your hairdryer or allow your painting air dry. Be sure to take a deep breath and relax. It's really easy to get tense or worried when you're painting, but in art, there isn't a right or wrong. Yours will look something like mine, but not exactly like mine. So keep yourself relaxed because you probably started painting, so it would be fun. Now I have here a number 2 Silverstone fan. This is a hog whistle fan. I'm going to get it lightly wet, wipe it off on my towel, and I'm going to show you how to make some really fun little palm trees. Not palm trees, pine trees. Totally wrong season. All right, let's come up here. We're on the edge. The handle is upwards. And we're going to just stipple up and down a little tree. Well, that looks like a line right now, doesn't it? Back a little bit below your skyline. I'm going to come back and forth. And biggest at the bottom, and then as I come up towards the top, trees will become more narrow, like a little cone shape. To do that, often I'll get on the corner of the brush, and that's how we get that basic shape. You can do it going down or up. It works both ways. Another little trick that I think works on this is to kind of curve these into the fisheye as well. Say up here on this one, I want to come from the top to the bottom. I just, again, you can see I'm curling the brush to the left, I'm tapping up and down, tapping up and down. Bigger as we go down, making the tree branches interesting and random. Try to avoid making a ladder or steps. A common thing that happens when people paint. It doesn't mean you can't paint. It just means that that's something that people do. I know I have my big pink tree here, so I don't want to put in too much detail. However, I do want my painting to have layers. Coming on the corner, go down again. No, that way the background is still showing behind my big, beautiful pink tree, all covered in snow. I'm getting just the smidge of water. You don't want your fan brush to be too wet for this, or it won't do a nice job. Come over again a bit. Now we've got the pink tree, so we have some stuff filling up this space. Let's make a nice long background tree. Coming down, coming down, coming down. Last one. We'll pull this one in a little bit coming in. It kind of talks in that fisheye, looking up at the sky. Bring this down a little bit, and it's nice to make sure that distant area is very far away and foresty. Now, rinse your fan brush out thoroughly and dry these trees. Either air dry them or hair dry them. Make sure you're doing the little steps of allowing things to dry. A lot of times what messes people up when they're doing acrylic paint is not having the paint dry when it needs to be dry or wet when it needs to be wet, which is why I tell you these things. It'll really help your result. For the next layer, I'm going to add a bit of snow on the branches of these trees. I'm going to load up my fan brush with my white paint, and I'm going to add a smidge of my black. It will be a little darker than the sky because these are far away. They're in the forest. They're all in shade under the moonlight. And I don't want to take out all of the contrast, so I'm going to come up very gently. Just add a little snow. This will be a delicate procedure on these little trees. A little bit so that this back area has some snow going on. In the summertime, they might be just in silhouette. You can see it's just very delicate, and I'm leaving the outside edge of my black, just a a moment to breathe and be calm. Listen to the sound of our brush, but also watch how our brush is guiding us through the canvas, right? There we go. If for any reason you took out too much of your dark tree, you can always rinse out your brush, come back, and make sure that you add any branches or value back. You can play and improve, making sure that they have a little bit of snow on them, but that it's not overwhelming. Now, I wonder if you've predicted it. I'm going to suggest that you dry the canvas again at this stage. You'll see why it kind of makes sense why I'm saying hair dryer instead of air dry. But you can do either. Now we're going to add a little bit of a snowbank, pop our moon some, and create a glow. You're going to love this because even though you're new to painting, you can totally do this. I'm getting my brush wet, and I'm going to make a light gray. I'm going to come from the right-hand side on the toe of my brush, which is the tip. Don't press down very hard because I want the brush to feel agile, and I want to cover up the bottoms of my trees. Going back and forth. You don't want to do pure white even though it's snow, because you need room for your snowflakes to show on your canvas. These are just little things that you can do, no matter where you are in your painting stage. You get a very good effect. And it's okay if you want to take this forward a bit, all the way to the bottom. Paint around the surface some. You can see I'm just brushing. Try not to worry. And if you're having, this is also a nice time to change your water. One thing that messes up new painters really badly is dirty water. Make sure your water isn't murky. It looks like it could have a swamp creature in it. It's probably time to change it. I'm going to get a little bit of paint. Just, can you see I'm coming from the edge here, being quite precious on the toe of my brush? It's kind of white. I'm going to come into my moon very lightly and just make sure that it's a glowing some. You know, I'm just on the toe. It's a very soft and delicate. You can totally handle it. Now, the big thing that you've got to do, my thing is to teach you the steps, right? So I'm trying to do that, show you the techniques, explain what we're doing. But your big job is to not pick on yourself. It's real easy when you're new to painting to see every mistake you made and miss all the things that you did right. I think I spend a lot of time in my day, in my groups, in my different places, talking to my students, just letting them know they're doing okay. Now, a fun little zazzy bit that we can do here, I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to get a smidge of my pink into it. This is Quinacridone Magenta. You just use your favorite. And we're going to make a bit of a radial. I'm going to come on the toe of my brush and just make some circles, shining around. Sometimes moon have rainbows and little glows. I don't want to paint out my trees. I just want a little pop. Show that that's going on. It's just a little bit. I can come back with some white. If you take anything out, like I'm going to show you this just in case it happens to you, because sometimes what I do is just try to make sure that you guys at home are okay as things happen to you during your painting. Like, predict it. I'm rinsing out my brush quite thoroughly. And I lost the top of my tree a bit. All I've got to do is come back, and I can just be very carefully with my brush, sort of fix that, can I? You're never stuck. Don't ever panic. Stuff happens in your painting. Well, hopefully by now you know what's coming sort of next, but I do want to do something. I'm looking here and I feel like my circle is just a little bit wonky. That can be something that happens when you sit down and paint. Sometimes you got to stand up and look at your stuff just to make sure that it's good. So as I'm sitting down, I have to do that too. All right. How's that? That looks wonky. Maybe it's my camera angle. I don't know. I'll know when I see it get right. There we go. We're getting right. So a lot of times when you're painting, you'll have those little moments, and never be afraid to come in and say, I need to take an extra pass to make this be the piece I'm trying to paint. All right. As you guessed it, we're drying the next layer. We can do some paint. Our next little part is to put some snow that our tree is on. I'm going to get a little water into my brush, load a smidge of my pink into it, and some white. And come right through here. Kind of imply a bit of another hill. Just brush it down. Should be quite light. I'm bringing the brush across, and the brush as much as the color kind of helps me make the shape that I'm going for. On the toe of the brush, we're coming from the right side. We go up a little bit, dip in, come down. We're doing good. Okay. Now you've got kind of that little snowy field right there. Rinse out and get your fan brush, and you're going to make the basis of your wonderful pink trees. We're going to load up with a lot of our pink paint. And our power trick is going to be to get a little bit of our black. We'll darken it so that we have what's called contrast. That's the difference between the darks and the lights. You can see my brush is heavily loaded. I'm going to come up here, right between that little spot that I left for myself, and tap up, and tap up. I'm going to bring this down, going back and forth. Creating a very dark magenta to build from. And let's put a little friend tree next to our first tree. There's two of them. Rinse out, and now I'm going to come back with white on my brush. Okay if a little pink is in it, but mostly I want my white. And it's still wet. This is that moment when it's important for it still to be wet. And add to our little friend. Bringing that back and forth. Little pink trees. I flip my brush over, tapping up and down. The bottom of the tree. This is a great moment to allow these to dry so you can do the detailing next. It's a great time to come in and pop our snow a little bit under our trees. I've got my cat brush again. I'm going to load it up with some more white. Let's come under here, and I'm going to just brush this highlight. You can see how I'm going across? The paint is loaded on this side of my brush, and I'm just parallel to this, parallel to the canvas, right next to it, just touching and dragging along, and it lets some of what's underneath skip through. I'm going to rinse out. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of my magenta back onto my brush, just the magenta. I'm going to come in and make sure that my pink trees have some deep pink shadows going down them. You want some nice pink shadows in your trees. It's nice if they have some underneath them on the hill. I want it to be very like, wow, pretty awesome. And then maybe a little more on that side. I'm going to get a little of my white on here.
Sorry I'm so quiet, guys. My throat's a little sore.
I'm going to tap out just a little bit of focus white.
Yeah, I'm just going to be quiet back here in the background.
And take it for a bit. I'm just heavier on this side here, this left side.
Thank you, Katie.
Tapping up and down.
Best luck, Katie. We'll see you
Do
later.
a little stipple. And this kind of helps break up that snow. Right? So you've got those focal pink babies sitting there. All right. Now we're ready to splatter. I have some white paint here that I'm going to thin a little bit with water. I'm going to take my brush to just create some drops to just sort of thin it. You don't want it to be its thickest that it can be. Sometimes you can just use craft paint, or I have another paint that I like to use straight from the bottle. But most paint you will modify a bit to get your snow splatter. The thing that I'll say is, and I have videos about this, is that having this be a smooth, evenly incorporated, thoroughly mixed throughout, fluidity thoroughly mixed throughout, will absolutely help you. And the other thing is, if you've never splattered before, and this is your favorite painting that you've ever done, maybe do a second one and see how you like splattering, or at least use a scratch piece of paper, because when it works, it's magic, but it can be a little bit tricky to learn. I'm going to take my splatter tool. This is my little Galaxy brush tool here, and I'm going to load it up. It looks like a toothbrush. You could probably use a toothbrush, but this is not a toothbrush. This is a painting brush. And I'm going to just carefully flick snow falling on my scene. The trick is to try to get round splatters. And you can see that I put out some paper towels, some coverings to make sure that I prepared for that splatter. You just make it snow as much as you want it to snow. If you need a little extra help with splatter, I do have a video that just focuses on all the different ways that you can do stars or snow or seafoam using the splattering technique. When you're here, believe it or not, I have finished the painting and it's time to sign. Let's get a signature brush and very carefully write our names on the surface. Now, if I write with the white, it's probably not going to show very much here. And while I don't think my signature should be the whole thing about the painting, like I wouldn't do like a big, giant glowing red signature, I do think it's a good idea to use the colors that you use in the painting, make sure that it's legible and readable. I take a small brush that I can easily sign with. Some people like to sign with a Posca pen or another tool. I like to sign using the medium I created the artwork with. But that's not like a rule, that's a... So hopefully this is a great first holiday painting for you. Nice snow scene. If you've never painted a snow scene before, I hope it intrigues you enough to paint maybe some more snow scenes. Stay warm out there. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.